and just body pains, joint pains. So all these are some of the other symptoms that a person who has typhoid fever might present with. So I do hope you have learned something. Today we're talking about the signs and symptoms of typhoid fever. So we say that they would have fever, which usually increases in temperature as days go by. So each day the fever will be increasing. Then also they might have constipation or diarrhea. Sometimes they might have constipation first and then later on they would have diarrhea. They might also have weakness, fatigue, body pains, and joint pains. So if you are experiencing any of these symptoms, do not hesitate to go to the hospital as soon as possible. And if you know anybody who has some symptoms or these symptoms, make sure you take them as quickly as possible as well. So make sure you watch tomorrow's, where we'll be talking about how it's diagnosed and treated in the hospital. What are the treatment options for typhoid fever? Is it treatable? Are you able to get cured from this disease? So we want to know exactly how it's treated. So make sure you watch tomorrow again. Invite your friends and invite your family members as well to watch. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me on Facebook at Dr. Nakuyana Mfaya, or you can even watch the other episodes on my YouTube channel at Dr. Nakuyana Mfaya. I'll see you again next time. Stay blessed and stay healthy.
Okay, thank you so much for still joining us now. That was our resident doctor with that health presentation. But for now, let's get into money markets and see how the foreign exchange rate looks today, and we see how the kwacha is faring against other major convertible foreign currencies. We begin with the United States dollar. That's buying at 25 kwacha 0.47 ngwe and selling at 25 kwacha 0.97 ngwe. Now the euro is buying at 27 kwacha 0.26 ngwe and selling at 27 kwacha 0.79 ngwe. The South African rand is buying at 1 kwacha 0.40 ngwe and selling at 1 kwacha 0.43 ngwe. The Great British Pound is buying at 32 kwacha 0.31 ngwe and selling at 32 kwacha 0.95 ngwe. Now these foreign exchange rates were updated today, the 26th of June in the year 2024 at exactly 7:38 hours, and of course eyes will be on the dollar against the kwacha, that, like we keep on saying, that it keeps on moving like a pendulum from 25 to 26, 27, thereabout. But today we're able to see that it's at 25. The kwacha against the dollar is trading at 25. We are yet to see how the day progresses and how the week unfolds, if the kwacha will still, if the US dollar and the kwacha will be trading at 25 as we close the week, seeing that it's midweek today and it's at 25 kwacha. So that's it for the money markets, the foreign exchange rates. You have them as you are getting into town, conducting your business wherever you are. Those that work from home, obviously you know what the foreign exchange rate looks like this particular morning on a Wednesday. Now let's move on to current affairs, but be reminded that at exactly 8 hours we'll be crossing over to Oslo, Norway, where our governance activist and defender, who happens to be our guest, Mrs. Charlotte Nais, will be having a conversation with her. A lot of things that are happening in the country have caught the attention of Zambians living in a diaspora, and they would like also to add a voice to what is currently happening in the country. From reports of alleged sale of 6 million hectares of land to a Vietnamese company calling itself Vietzam, to issues that have to do with load shedding, emergency power cuts, and also the restoration of power by ZESCO, the power utility company, to a revelation by the board chairperson, Mr. Vixon Ngube, that you as a member of the public, a citizen of Zambia, can be able to sell your extra power to ZESCO and earn a little something, like the president likes to put it, President Hakainde Hichilema. You'll be able to earn a little something from there. So a lot that we need to discuss this particular morning. So you stay glued, but we urge you, our viewer out there, to come through and give us your submissions on the press briefing that took place yesterday. What were your takeaways from that particular press briefing that was held at State House, of course being chaired by President Hakainde Hichilema, the head of state? He's now in Livingstone for a working visit, and we'll be waiting from you, the viewers, to come through. But let's look at the press briefing that the president had, because as Camnet TV, of course, we had a story pertaining to that particular press briefing. Now, President Hakainde Hichilema emphasized the need for Zambia to unite in addressing impacts of El Nino drought, urging a focus on pertinent issues rather than irrelevant debates. Speaking during a presidential address yesterday, Tuesday, the head of state also rescinded a directive from Secretary to the Cabinet which required all public service vehicles to be parked by 18 hours daily. He says the decision aims to ensure continuous service delivery and prevent disruptions to the work of public service employees who are essential for meeting the public's needs. Now, recently, Secretary to the Cabinet, Patrick Kangwa, issued several directives, including the early parking of public service vehicles at 18 hours to mitigate the waste of public resources amid challenges posed by climate-induced food and energy insecurities. We do have a clip to this effect. Let's go on that particular clip. When we come back, we'll talk a bit about this particular story. Then we'll also be waiting to hear from you, the viewers out there. We'll be right back.
We should be working 24/7 every day. The president is taking the lead. You must do the same. Ministers must do the same. Everybody, including a cleaner, must do the same. And I'm inviting the private sector to do similar things. If they're not already ahead of us, I believe they're ahead of us, but we want to basically work together at back. As a consequence of that, you heard me say that work is not 8 hours to 17 hours. That's hanging around. We expect work done all the time. Mr. Kangwa, Secretary of Cabinet, I'm overriding your decision. From today, civil servants who have access to transport must have that access to transport 24 hours in a day. So that it is not the reason they are not delivering. Are you together? Are we together? It's not the reason they are not working because, no, I couldn't respond to this because I've been told by Secretary of Cabinet that I park my car and I can't use it. Your cars will be available. After all, they are taxpayers' cars. Use them responsibly, sparingly, to deliver for the owners of the cars. I hope, Secretary of Cabinet, you can.
Okay, thank you so much for still joining us now. That was President Hakainde Hichilema, the head of state of the Republic of Zambia, during a press briefing yesterday before his departure to Livingstone, where he has gone for a working a visit. And of course, he was talking about public service vehicles to be parked, not to be parked at 18 hours, like as earlier directed by Secretary of Cabinet, Mr. Patrick Kangwa, when he made that directive that all public service vehicles must and should be parked before 18 or by 18 hours. Now, you and I, we have seen public service vehicles before that directive was given, ferrying poles, ferrying construction materials. A vehicle is written. This is a Hilux or whichever vehicle brand that is there, written GRZ, but ferrying blocks in the night, during the day, over the weekend. And obviously that's a concern from members of the public. Would get worried that these are vehicles that are bought with taxpayers' money being abused instead of being used for service delivery. But the president has made it clear that civil servants must not be denied transport. They have to be given access to transport. Hence, the vehicles won't be parking at or by 18 hours. But in order for service delivery to continue. Okay, and there was also a question which was posed to the president about the 24-hour economy, that a motion that was raised in Parliament, obviously, and the new Dawn administration has been talking about a 24-hour working economy, and the president did make mention after that question was posed by a member of the media concerning the to that particular effect, that those that want to irrigate, they should irrigate in the night so that they pay less when less people are using power. Okay, that was some of the highlights from the press briefing that the president had yesterday. But want to hear from you, what were your highlights regarding that particular briefing held by President Alain Hichilema yesterday? What were some of the key issues that the president labored on, so that you as a viewer out there can be able to, were you satisfied with some of the statement, some of the things that were mentioned? One of them is that hospitals should not be load-shedded. The president did make mention that hospitals should not be load-shedded. And also, he did make mention that citizens who can generate power in excess can consider selling it to the national grid. Okay. And also, the president did review that Mamba Collieries Phase 2, with a production capacity of 300 megawatts, will soon be launched, and 90 million United States dollars had been secured for the project. The president did reveal that to the public yesterday through the media, of course. And civil servants should be able to have access to transport for 24 hours to work and not for personal duties. That was revealed during the press briefing by President Alain Hichilema yesterday. What are some of your highlights that we might have missed this particular morning, that you feel this touched at your core of your heart as a Zambian when the president was addressing the media yesterday? So you can come through and obviously let us know. Before we clock 8 hours, we're on remaining with 6 minus minutes, so that we go to Oslo, Norway, and begin to have a conversation. Now, power generation and Ndola Energy Thermal Plant has been restored to full capacity, 105 megawatts, after loss of 47 megawatts. I'll read that again. Power generation and Ndola Energy Thermal Power Plant has been restored to full capacity, 105 megawatts after loss of 47 megawatts. Now, police officers have also been urged to immediately stop mounting illegal checkpoints and roadblocks. And one notable checkpoint is that one that is right here in Kablonga, by the cave. Those that use the inward road off Kud Road, you know the checkpoint that I'm talking about. It's fairly hidden, so when you are, there's a checkpoint in front of you. But we have had some drivers that have quickly U-turned after seeing that there were some officers in front. We have a lot of drivers that have expressed concern regarding that particular checkpoint, saying that is it illegal? Has it been authorized? Why is it in a secluded area right here in the heart of Kablonga? If you branch off from Kudu Road on your left as you are trying to connect to Kablonga Road, as you are using the inward road, you will find that checkpoint. Probably it has been mounted as we speak right now, but the Zambia Police Command has issued a stern warning to its officers involved in mounting unauthorized checkpoints and roadblocks following numerous complaints from the public. Now, in a statement issued to Camnet TV, Acting Inspector General of Police Milna Myambango has stressed that such conduct will not be tolerated and urged officers to enforce traffic laws and regulations ethically and within the law. The police command has also encouraged the public to report any suspicious checkpoints or roadblocks and reminded motorists of their rights, including the right to request an officer's name and service number. Okay, I love the last part, where members of the public have been urged to request for the officer's name and service number. Okay, so there you are, viewers. Let's go to Kalingalinga now, where residents of this particular township have welcomed President Hakainde Hichilema's directive to exempt hospitals from power cuts during the ongoing load shedding. Now, Margaret Njovu, a resident, says the decision will ensure that health facilities operate efficiently and deliver prompt medical services to patients. During a presidential address Tuesday morning, President Hakainde Hichilema reiterated his instruction that hospitals should not experience power cuts. We do have a report on this particular story. Let's look out for this particular report. When we come back, we're crossing over to Oslo, Norway. Stay tuned. Don't go away.
Load shedding has continued to be a passed-down occurrence for Zambian governments. During the Patriotic Front administration, the country suffered blackouts that lasted 4 to 8 hours a day, and when in opposition, the United Party for National Development, UPND, vehemently articulated on how, if voted for, would ensure that Zambians never go a day without power. The head of state, on numerous occasions, took to his social media platforms to express his concerns, and I quote, "There cannot be any serious economic activities that can create jobs without addressing the energy sector, fuel and electricity," he said on July 8, 2020. In the third year of the party being in power, load shedding has become a major problem as citizens have continuously complained about the electricity supply situation. But during his presidential address this morning, President Hakainde Hichilema has assured the public that government has made various steps in addressing the situation and are working on a lifeline power supply for small businesses in communities that have negatively been affected by the energy insecurity caused by the El Nino-induced drought.
We have put in place measures, citizens. Open access to be operationalized, meaning whoever generates power here can send it to a customer there. In between here, there's a ZESCO transmission line. ZESCO is now obligated to carry that power. Before, ZESCO had a choice to carry that power or not. That choice has been taken away from ZESCO. They have to carry that power from generation point to the consumption point, where it's needed. Be it a small restaurant in that corner, be it a hospital in that corner, be it a water installation in that corner. That power must move, open access to operational access. What else are we doing? We bring in private sector, formalizing the private sector traders in power, so they can trade efficiently from producers inside the country, outside the country, to where it's needed.
Meanwhile, residents of Kalingalinga Township have commended the directive from the head of state that all health facilities must not be load-shaded.
Ni vambili pamene yasebenza malaiti so ngati yaenda nisibantu tizapeze kati na maproblem yosiyana cyane so at least mwamene bakambira ba president kutia pano pa clinics yafunga kuyenda tsikaya malaiti yasenza vambili munga pano
is recommendable is very commendable because a healthy nation is a wealthy nation. So without electricity it will affect obviously the smooth operation of the health facilities, and also it acts as also a deterrent, as a security measure. As a health facility, if there's no power, obviously it's easy for thieves to steal the...
Cherish Sibote for Camnet News, Lusaka.
Okay, thank you so much for still joining us. Now, that was a report by our roving reporter there, Cherish Sibote, in Kalingalinga, where residents did give their views regarding the presidential pronouncement that hospitals should and must not be load-shedded or affected by the ongoing load-shedding schedule by the power utility company ZESCO. But for now, we go straight into our main interview, and we go to Oslo, Norway, where our governance activist and human rights defender, Mrs. Charlotte Nais, is joining us to discuss a number of issues pertaining to this country. We'll just term it national matters. And of course, like I said earlier, that the happenings in the country, the recent happenings, if you like, have compelled Zambians living in a diaspora to add a voice and give their own 2 cents regarding the matters that are happening, and offer solutions to what is currently happening in the country, economically, politically, socially, name it. We do have Mrs. Charlotte Nais on the line. Mrs. Nais, good morning and welcome to Camnet Breakfast Show.
Good morning, thank you, Mr. Smata, and good morning, listeners. Good morning, viewers.
How is Oslo, Norway, this particular morning? 331,210 square kilometers as Zambia's total land size.
It's insane, really. Just to be... it's very sad. It's very, very sad than Zambia. No matter what, we do not have any other place to go. And the population is growing. The last 20 years, I stand to be corrected. I think the population has grown about 4 million in Zambia. And you can imagine if we are to tamper with what we've got, that is all that we have. Africa is the next big thing. A lot of people must be aware of it. Not too long ago, Mr. Smata, Africans living in Norway, we were invited by the Foreign Affairs Minister here to dialogue. So apparently the Norwegian government are working on an African strategy plan on how best they can work with Africa. And one of the questions that we were asked to prepare for was, what do we see Africa in the next 10 years? And what can Norway do with African countries? How can Norway work better with African countries? The strategic plan document is ready, and it will be now published on the 19th of August. Why take the interest? It's because they can see that we can collaborate, we can work. We need to identify countries that have got a beautiful reputation. So to answer the question very direct, it's very sad to hear if indeed that is happening, it must be stopped, like yesterday. It must be stopped. And reading through the deal, the claims, or whatever this guy wants, it's really not making sense. Mm-hmm. And by the way, Mr. Samata, you didn't mention on how much the deal was being talked about. Not too long ago, the president had gone to, he's been with the creditors in trying to settle something for Zambia. Zambia is owing debts. Mm-hmm. And there was a restructuring not too long ago, but the total debt that we've got, I mean, look at it. Why can't he, the same guy who has the $72 billion, we are owing 6.4 billion, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
But according to the allegations, Mrs. Nais, according to the allegations...
I mean, those are the allegations, mm-hmm. Of course. The allegations, but let's stop it. It's something we should not entertain. Mm-hmm. We should not entertain. We need the land, and that is what we've got. We are mm-hmm. progress, and we're going to get there, and that is what we need to hold very dear to our hearts. We cannot sell land. No, we cannot. We can lease land. Mm-hmm. We can lease land, but let's also lease land to reputable people. Let's try to investigate what intentions do they have. You see, we are a hot cake. And what is it that we've got? We've got the minerals, we've got the natural resources. So that already should be high alert. Bamwisa, they will come in all sorts of skins, mm-hmm. in all sorts of colors. But the bottom line is that really what they want to do in our country?
And Mrs. Nais,
that should be going through our heads. Yeah.
Reading, my producers and I did a bit of research. If at all the allegations, right, the claims are true, that this particular investor wants to invest 72 billion, which according to the allegations he doesn't have, but he will use the land to as collateral to get to borrow that money to invest in rice cultivation in the northern part of Zambia, and the place that has been mentioned is Luapula. Now, Mrs. Nais, if it is true that this particular investor has been allocated 6 million hectares of land in the northern part of Zambia, it means that this person has been given 7.9% of total Zambian land and 18% of the total land size in Vietnam. Mrs. Nais, if at all this individual has been given 6 million hectares of land, these are the implications: 7.9% of total Zambian land and 18% of total land in Vietnam. How does this sit with you?
It's absurd. It's something mm-hmm. that we should not even be discussing. I mean, people have looked down on us, and we cannot continue. And no matter how much we put it, land, whether in 1 hectare, Bamwisa should only get a lease. They should never be sold land. It should be put in black and white. Bamwisa can only get a lease. Get lease from a Zambian citizen for so long time, maybe 30 years, and that's it. We should never be talking about buying land. No, buying land, this is like, no, it's not making sense. And then growing rice. Mozambique to their rice to eat for Christmas. So that is about, us being laborers again in our own country. They won't even bring the machinery. This is just sweet talk. It will be us being laborers in our own country. Let's protect for all of us that are able, that are sitting in these high tables, policy makers. Let's do the right thing for those people that do not have the access to the corridors of power. That is our job. That is our mandate. Let's protect that belongs to us. Zambia belongs to our people.
Okay.
We cannot sell land. We cannot discuss land. Lease it to foreigners for a period of time. Finito. There's no selling of land. There should never be any selling of land. And those chiefs that are being paraded, no, they should never even be invited. But Chief of Afghanistan, I know of some good chiefs that I've been speaking with. They practically say we don't talk about land. Come here and do some development and that's it. But don't engage us in land. That is what we've got. We must protect it. There should never be discussions to talk about land in Zambia, selling it to foreigners.
And Mrs. Nais, still on land and allegations against these Vietnamese investor, and I'm being very careful in my words because there have been allegations, there have been these claims, and we have seen different ministries, different government officials refuting these allegations that are already in public domain. Now, Mrs. Nais, if for instance, if these claims are true, in other words, this person will hold a fifth of his country's.
Zambian must come through here and just say, look, we do understand investors are interested in our country. They would like to work with us. But the idea of selling land, no matter how well we put it, Zambia is not worthy any dime. It's as simple as that. The problem, the risks that are there are very, very high. Coming in to say, Naisa Mkulimia Amadute, but meanwhile, Kumbali are doing something else. I mean, these are some of the stories that we have heard in the past, where some so-called investors came to fix some roads, but then we heard on the Eastern Province that they were dealing in something else. There was some cooler business involved. There's been some minerals involved. So we really have to be very, very careful. We should not be naive. Yes, we want to develop our countries, but at what expense? So talking about land, for me, I'm glad that this has not been confirmed. It is an allegation, but there is something that took place because there are some documents that we have seen, and I'm glad that the people in charge have come out to say, no, this isn't true, or there was an alleged, also it was an intention where they have presented. But even if they have presented, what the person, the so-called investor is asking for is absurd. We cannot do it and we should not do it. Let's protect our country. Let's protect our land. That is what we've got. And if we sit not we can have land, it's all right. But land we're not going to sell. When we sell the land and we give it to, you see, Mr. Simata, the risk we take by selling it to foreigners is that functioning institutions, institutions that are thinking ahead, and I like that question, thinking about generations to come. Many countries that are planning ahead, they think about generations to come, and that is what we need to think about. Letting a Zambian child know that I existed and I sold land to a foreigner and make them pay, I think that is the biggest damage we can do. The biggest damage we can do. So I would like to believe that the policymakers we've got in place have the best heart for the Zambia, and that they also have a heart in their decision making. I would like to believe that, and I would like that this is protested, that people just say no, it's not going to work, and if there's anything that has come through, let the deal be changed, or at least if it hasn't, just lease out the land. And the rice, by the way, that to the rice, to the rice for Christmas. So your rice, I have no idea who is going to be eating that rice. Zambia definitely, abadia rice. Basimata na mwe no kumipikira rice balance na padina muzaka na kuti inesimi ngati rice. If etima diansima.
Kabwadi.
So that rice, yes, akabwadi. So that rice will not be fed, will not be eaten by, consumed by Zambians. It will be consumed by somebody else. But my fear is we are going to have hundreds, so the job creation will be hundreds laborer Zambians working like in other countries, working in a tea field. No, Zambians behave, they deserve better. They deserve better, and from a very good investor. So let's do some ground, some groundwork. Let's work on what investor, where they come from, what is their history, how long have they been investing, and what was the biggest deal before they come and get. What a deal. What a deal, Mr. Smata, right? Imagine 6 million.
I have a pie chart here, and unfortunately it can't be displayed on the TV screen. However, I have a pie chart of the financing of the GRZ, or Government of the Republic of Zambia, 2024 supplementary budget number 1. Now, according to the pie chart, additional revenue, Mrs. Nais, is 9%, donors 10%, savings as a country obviously 41%, and debt amounts to 40%. Now the debt is at 16.6 billion kwacha, savings 17.2 billion kwacha, donors obviously are 4.3 billion kwacha, additional revenue 3.7 billion kwacha, and carryovers 37.1 million kwacha. Like they say, numbers do not lie. How do you make of this particular financing of the GRZ 2024 supplementary budget, Mrs. Nais?
We can see, I wish I could have something previously, and I will try to remember what you have presented. But it would be good to compare with how it was maybe from 2022 and 2023 budget, of course, or 2024, so that we can compare whether the. But from the readings, we have read that the debt has gone up, and I'm glad to hear that we are saving some money. That is very important. We should put it in a pensions fund, actually. We need more revenue. We need more revenue, and we need to get rid of the aid. We need more revenue, we need to get rid of the aid, but we also need to produce. We cannot just be consumers. So it is a little bit difficult to go into those finance details, but from what appears, what we've got at the moment.
Are we safe?
If we are safe. It's a little bit difficult to know whether we are safe, to be honest, because we are midway. We are midway, and we have quite a number of issues that are pressing. What would be the best response would be, what measures are we doing in responding to our challenges? That is how you can say we are safe or not safe, because of course the savings is very important, as we need a buffer in the event we are not able to, we are not able to survive the allocated budgets. So we need to cushion. And just like recently we heard that there will be a supplement. So it is important that we have a savings that we can fall back on. But there's a big worry for me. The drought effects have not hit yet. So the drought effects can actually push us off the rail again when we are already not very stable economically. We are struggling at the moment. Things are not too as we would like. You see, the electricity, the commodity prices is really, really high for most people. And then businesses have also suffered. There is need to, I'm glad that the president yesterday was emphasizing on how we should be economic in our dealings, in how we are feeding, what we prepare, those things. So we need to tighten up, because that is the reality. So to say we are safe, I don't think the answer is yes and no, but it's how we respond. And how we respond to what is yet to come is what will decide on how we look. But definitely, there's a lot to do. And what is important is how best we plan ahead. So decisions have been made. We see the president presented a few things on energy yesterday. That is very good. But then we also have the food crisis. And then we are also not too sure how the rainfall pattern is looking for the next season. So that is also very important. So it's very difficult to go by when you have situations. Look at the fuel as well.
For a national park right here in Lusaka of Kafue district. Okay. That information images were all over social media. Now, let me get it from you, Mrs. Nais. When you heard about this particular information or news that a prominent UPND supporter, sympathizer, and cadre had encroached into a national park, land reserved for a national park, how did this sit with you as a Zambian in the diaspora?
We are not going to discuss individuals, but what we can say is that you've mentioned something very important, that this is a national park or reserved national park, and therefore that should be an answer regardless of what position one holds. I mean, let's be meaningful Zambians.
Okay.
It's a national park. It is national park. It's as simple as that. You're not going to bend the rules because you've got the power. I mean, we have seen this in the previous regime. We've seen how much power people had. We can't have this thing happening again. What was bad then should be bad now and should be bad tomorrow. This has been clearly stated. It's reserved national property, national park, and let us respect it regardless. I mean, if this is what it will take, then that is why politics become very exciting, because people just feel when I'm in charge, then I can do everything. I can bend the rules. But that is not, Zambia is larger than an individual. And I think any meaning Zambian should see this and should condemn such acts. And we hope that that decision has been reserved. I would like to read that it has actually been reserved and that the development will not go ahead.
Okay, and on that particular score, there has been a statement from the Minister of Lands, Dr. Honorable Elijah Mchima, indicating that those that are encroaching on land reserved, for instance, for a national park, reserved for a road reserve, whether UPND or any other party, or they will be dealt with by the law. How do you make of that stern warning from the Minister of Lands, Mrs. Nines?
Mr. Samantha, I earlier mentioned about functioning institutions. If our institutions were really, really working very well, there shouldn't be this story coming up. Because to start with, acquiring land, you have to acquire it through the headman or through the chief who will do consent, right? And then you will proceed to the council. So did the council do their job before it even gets to Minister of Lands? I'm glad that the Minister of Lands has responded to that. So we shouldn't even get to the ministry later on. And I hope that there's no title deed in place, because then people must be penalized from the council. Because the council, how did they cross? How did the case get crossed all the way for somebody to start developing? Then there should be some documentation in place. So just the chief alone and you go and invest? No, How did the council get consulted? Didn't the council know about it? I mean, they know the allocations, they know the demarcations. So that is completely wrong. Then they have the wrong people in the wrong offices. They're not doing their jobs. You know, some of these things is very straightforward. The minister shouldn't even get to the minister's level. But then we get to see how much power when some people get into offices. They become so powerful that they dare authorities. I mean, it's me. Do you know who I am? That kind of thing. But that is very, very retrogressive. We shouldn't be doing things like that. We should not. So I'm glad that the minister has actually responded, and I'm glad that it will be reversed, that people are not going to be living in the national park. I mean, we are talking about, global warming, climate change. The animals need to breathe as well. We are not going to displace animals. Naba chief bapela consent. But for you to be able to get the consent from the chief, then you are thinking of the route of, making it, from traditional